Yes, it's that awesome. Another Saturday, which means another anime review. This time it's a movie called 100 Meters, and I don't mean my daily run to the fridge and back. But this anime has a really peculiar background story. The manga of this movie was originally released between 2019 and 2020 and was not really the most popular one, but it got the attention of editors all over the country. What happened next is where Uoto, who is the author of the manga, story really began. A year later he released what would become one of the best and most interesting animes of all times, Orb on the Movements of Earth. If you didn't watch it yet, go watch it. And after that, his original work 100 Meters really took off. But this is not where it ends. The manga was animated into a movie and released on Netflix, and it finally got the praise it deserves. A happy ending, everyone.
Anxiety is a feeling one gets when one challenges themselves.
I'm gonna be honest, I had this movie on my radar for quite a while, but I didn't find really the time to watch it. And if you are in the similar situation as me and you are hesitating, then really don't and go watch it. Believe me, you won't regret it. So the story revolves around the 100-meter track and field sport, but the focus is not really on the winning, but the psychological aspect of being an athlete and how much athletes need to sacrifice and dedicate to this sport to really succeed. What is also interesting is that the author Uoto studied psychology in university, and you can really see it in all of his work. But what really stands out in 100 meters is really the unconventional animation. They use a technique called rotoscoping, which is tracing over live action footage. And the result, it looks hyper realistic, and some scenes, like the running primarily, looks like you are watching a real life movie, and it's really fascinating to see how it looks like. But it's not only used for the running, I think it's used for a lot of the scenes. This decision by the director himself was what I think made 100 meters really exceptional. Without it, it would be good, but not that good. Each character has their own motivation on why they are running, and this motivation continues on evolving because I believe the movie is made in the span of 15 years. Kaido, who was one of the runners who had a screen time of how long I last in bed, it's not much, and yet managed to be an absolute gem, dropped insane quotes. Like for example, all of this is our reality, and then during one of the races, he says, let's start escaping reality, and just grabs first place after not winning I don't know how many races.
This is my reality. It's time to escape from reality.
What a fucking legend. He's the living example that determination and the will to win is really above everything else. The only thing which I really didn't like is that Komiya's character development maybe 10 seconds, and it was at the end of the movie when he was smiling during the race and he realized that running against your rival is really what it's all about. The best moment of the show was though at the end. I think it had a beautiful ending, like we see them race together and we don't even see who won, but honestly I couldn't care less who won. It was really never about that. We see both Komiya and both Togashi happy, and that's all really that matters. The last thing I want to talk about is that Togashi's story is really relatable. He goes from a super talented kid to a really unmotivated adult, really questioning if it's really worth to continue with the sport and to continue running. He managed to push through, and he always find a way to get back into the sport. And as you can see, we are still in the psychological part of the anime. And as always, let's move to the judging part. Let's talk about the pros. Animation is an absolute gem, and I think rotoscoping proved to be a great choice for this. The scenes and tension feel so realistic. You are sitting in your chair waiting what happens next. Some of the scenes are one of the most beautiful I have ever seen in anime. The second pros is the music. I think this gets overlooked a bit.
Hey, new kid. Did all that training help you get any faster?
The music is really powerful and cinematic and really enhances the raw emotions from the scenes. Sometimes you don't even have music, you really have just the breathing of the athletes, how they are running, and how, for example, the rain is falling, and it really makes the scenes feel really more alive. Characters, narrative, and character development I think is also a huge pro. I really love all the characters. I think they're all great. My personal favorite is Kaido, as you might have guessed, because he's the highest cool to screen ratio I have ever witnessed. And dude just comes, aura farms and leaves. And then another pro for me is really the psychological aspect. The story is really focused on the characters and their psychology around the running and being an athlete, and really focuses on one of the aspects that is not often talked about, which is the brutality of the sport and of being an athlete and really being and staying at the top. The cons. So one of the cons is the story. So again, as I mentioned, this is really not story driven, it is really character driven. So there is not really a lot of story going on. You really see some characters going over a different period in their life and really competing at different stages, seeing how they behave, what it means to them and stuff like this. So it's really, there is not a lot of story going on, so some people might miss it. Also, there is a little bit of character development as a con, because I think Togashi, who is the main character, really got a lot of character development, and Komiya, for example, who is the second, let's say, main character, we really see his character development at the end of the movie, which is like 10 seconds when they are running together. So maybe that's a little bit philosophical, like we see his character development in 10 seconds, which is basically how usually often they run in the 100-meter sprint. And then the last con is the atmosphere. So if you're expecting really high energy like Blue Lock or Haikyuu, this is really not happening. This is really a bit more, let's say, more dramatic and really focused on the psychology part. So this is again something that you might miss. This is not really, it is about a sport, but it's not really the classic sport anime we are all used to. So my ratings are: animation 10 out of 10, story 4 out of 10, characters 8 out of 10, sound 9 out of 10, and rewatch value 8 out of 10. My final verdict for 100 meters is 9 out of 10, must watch. And I'm actually realizing that lately all sports anime that come out are really good, and I think they are setting the bar very high for the upcoming sport anime. I'm really happy to see this because I think sport anime has huge potential, and also I highly believe this anime is something I would even recommend to anime and non-anime watchers. So get your girlfriends, get your mothers, and sit down and watch 100 meters. Thank you for watching, leave a like and subscribe if you really liked the video, and I guess we will see each other in the next one.